Snooker Loopy, not a we, me and him and them and me. We'll show you what we can do with a load of balls of the snooker cue. Pot the red and screw back for the yellow, green, brown, blue, pink and black. Snooker Loopy, not a we. We're all Snooker Loopy. Cheers, boys.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Snooker Loopy Podcast. This is day 3 of our daily Crucible chats. I'd almost lost count already because it feels like there's been so much snooker and so much excitement over the last few days. My name is Tom Mayhew. I'm joined as always by my very good friend, the battler from Hastings. It's Joe Hannard.
Good evening, Hazel. Good evening, everybody at home. Welcome back to day 3 of our Crucible roundups, and Easter Monday treat for everybody. But it had, the snooker was interrupted this morning, Tom, on BBC.
Was it?
Yeah, because of the death of the Pope, of all things. They shoved the snooker on the red button.
Oh, well, he was a big fan of the snooker. He was always going on about it.
Yeah. So rest in peace to the Pope, but it did mean that at 10 o'clock I was thinking, where's the snooker? Why is Rip Off Britain on BBC 2 when it should be on BBC 1? And, it took me a minute to put the red button on. I ended up rewatching the first part of day 1 accidentally because of how unintuitive the iPlayer is sometimes. But, we got there in the end.
Well, I also... this morning, I'd accidentally uploaded day 1's episode as the podcast audio episode. So anyone listening on Spotify or Apple would have gone, this sounds very similar to the first day. So
yeah,
we've had all sorts of technical issues. And I've just quickly Googled, there is a snooker player called Jackson Pope. So...
There you go.
There's
Good.
also Dale Pope. There's 2 of them. Here we go.
Oh,
Pope
wow.
brothers.
I mean, we've got Jackson Pope and Dale Pope, and we've got Jackson Page and Dominic Dale. So, there's a big happy family there.
Yeah, there we are. So, luckily they've not died. And who knows, maybe the Popes will be playing each other at the Crucible in the future.
Well, quite possibly. Maybe they'll be... taking part in Q School this year to get on the tour. Who knows, Tom? And that is not how I expected to start this podcast. So sorry to anybody at home that is expecting a really detailed roundup of day 3. That's all we've got time for today. And we'll see you for day 4 tomorrow.
See you, everyone. Have a good day. And I can't wait to see who's going to play the next Pope.
But anyway, Tom, today we had some...
It's like Doctor Who, mate. He just regenerates and comes back as a new Pope.
Yeah. Well, this time we had Jackson Pope. Next time we'll have Dale Pope, and possibly next time we'll have Bingham Pope or something.
Yep, absolutely. I would love Bingham Pope, sponsored by Hot Tubs of Vatican City.
Oh dear. Well, yeah. Yeah, where all of the baptisms take place, But anyway, as a semi-religious man, I feel like I should stop being taking the mick out of all of this. But
of course, no genuine disrespect intended.
Yeah.
We're just being slightly flippant because, I wasn't expecting Joe to mention the Pope at the start.
It was a nasty surprise, though, to be fair, that turning on to BBC 2, expecting the snooker to be on, and it wasn't on. But, Rishi Prasad, bless him, he was just waiting on the red button for everybody.
Good old Rishi. Good. I'm glad he was there. I'm glad he was waiting for us.
He was, yeah. But we started off the day, of course, Joe O'Connor and John Higgins, one of the most anticipated matches of the round, I suppose. John Higgins has just won the Tour Championship. He's been in great form this season. Joe O'Connor, of course, got to the World Open final. And, I think a lot of people were backing this match to be one of the highlights of the round. I think, to be fair, it didn't disappoint. There was a 1-4-7 attempt from Joe. I think that was frame 7. got to the 12th black, I think. He missed the 12th black. So, or 12th, the 13th red, I think it was, that he missed. He was queuing over the blue. But they've got this thing this year, Tom, where they're going to give £25,000 to somebody in the audience if they're there for the 147 at any point during the Crucible in that session. I don't know. Have you heard this, Tom?
No, I mean
you've not heard this. Isn't
that more than the player would actually get for the maximum break?
No, I think it's 40,000 actually. The 147 high break. I suppose they'd have to share it with Jackson Page. They are also offering another £147,000 to anybody that can make two. Just like Jackson Page did. You know, Sean Murphy and Zhang Anda are one away from that, having made one at the UK and the Masters, respectively. But yeah, it's some sort of promotion through Midnight, which is a betting company. I think as you go into the Crucible, if you sign up for or register for this Midnight betting company, then you can be randomly picked out at the start of a session. And if there is a 147, then you will win £25,000. So there's been a couple of 147 attempts so far, but that one was certainly very, very close to happening.
Talking about sponsors, it's of course the Halo World Championship. I don't really know what Halo is. At first I thought it was the Xbox game had sponsored snooker, and I was like, that is a weird crossover. I wasn't expecting Master Chief to turn up at the Crucible.
Funnily enough, Tom, when I've been searching for logos for the Halo World Championship for our thumbnails, it keeps coming up with the esports Halo World Championship. It's very frustrating.
What do they do? It's bad that we don't know.
They're an IT service. What that means, I'm not entirely sure. Whether they're a VPN or whether they're just... I think they handle servers and that sort of thing. It's a very niche sponsor, a bit like Victorian Plumbing, .co.uk. That was a strange sponsor, wasn't it? There's some weird sponsors in snooker, and we have talked about it before. We had the Kit Kat Masters and all of that back in the 80s, but I mean, I appreciate they're going away from betting companies in some sort of way, and then they're just offering £25,000 for people that sign up for a betting website. It's really strange. I remember a few years ago, actually, Tom, I think on my channel I did a sponsorship with a betting company, and it didn't go down very well with the fans. So
wow,
yeah. But it's one of those things, isn't it?
I mean, to be fair, I do think you need to be a bit careful. But if someone offers you the money, and if you're working a job as a teacher, and teachers aren't paid as much as they should be earned, and so it's not like you're a city banker who could afford to turn down everything. I always think it's easy to take the moral high ground if you're financially secure. But I think
that was before I was a teacher, to be fair. I think it was during my time as a student, so it was a long time ago.
That's even dodgier than if you were like 19 and they were like, let's get all the students betting on who's going to beat it.
I think it was just more of a sort of the sports connection. I think betting was a lot bigger, I guess, 6, 7, 8 years ago than what it is now. But
I guess it is difficult with snooker, because the sport historically has been very, very much linked to alcohol and cigarettes and that kind of boozy atmosphere, and of course both those kind of companies are now banned really from sponsoring events. And I know they were sponsored by, there was like a Highland Spring sponsorship at the World Championship for, because the players drink water or whatever. But
yeah.
It's hard to say what else, unless there's a company that makes chalk that suddenly get £1 billion takeover. I don't really know.
It's just really tough, isn't it? Because people would be unhappy if there was a Saudi sponsor of the World Championship, or it is just really tough. What I am surprised at that there hasn't been a Chinese sponsorship of any of the big UK tournaments. That it does sort of make sense to me that they would probably want their brands to be shown at the big events, but I don't know.
The only thing that springs to mind is I know at one point there was like a Chinese company who were in charge of the water. So at one point, all the players would have a bottle of water, and it had a Chinese name in it that they'd pour into their mug, and that was through a sponsorship thing through this Chinese company. But I wonder whether either WST, from like a historical point of view, or whether it's a legal thing from a culture point of view, whether they don't want it to be a non-British sponsor, because even things like Kazoo, I think, was a British company. Do you know what I mean? I can't think of any non-British companies at all that have sponsored pretty much any snooker event, actually. Is there
well,
any
certainly not any in the UK. I think the ones out in China do tend to be sponsored by Chinese companies, but yeah, I mean, my favourite is the Pucker Pies UK Championship, Tom. Bring it back is what I say. But we're getting on a tangent here. We're talking about snooker. Let's get back on with the snooker. So John Higgins, we'll start off with that match. Obviously, there was that 147 attempt, and
speaking of Pucker Pies, John Higgins.
John Higgins, yeah. But John Higgins somehow managed to get out of that session 5-4. I think Joe O'Connor played really, really well this morning. John Higgins had a high break of 43, which, funnily enough, was the first break he had of the day. He got down, knocked a long red in, made 43, and that was his highest break of the session. It's just funny how these things work. Ended up being 5-4. I think he would have been delighted with that. Actually, listening to him after the match, he talked about how he was very emotional this morning, and I know he's had some family things going on, but apparently he was in tears before he went out there today. So there's a lot going on for John Higgins, and I think it is a lot of he's sort of overwhelmed with still being right at the top of the game. A bit like Mark Williams is, I guess, and
Ronnie as well.
And Ronnie, and we'll see that tomorrow. I imagine if Ronnie does win, we might see some emotion from Ronnie.
It is something I think is easy to forget, really, about any player in any sport who's been at the top for so long, is that they've had this intense focus and pressure from themselves, from the media, from their families, from all these things for 30 years. And while I'd say, maybe the first 5 years is a big adjustment period, then you maybe have 15 years or 20 years where you're a bit used to it, you cope with it, but it probably does become a point where it would grind you down and you would get a bit sick of it. And that's probably part of the reason why someone like Dominic Dale went, I've kind of had enough of some of it,
Yeah, same with Joe Perry, isn't it? I think there's a lot of players that I think, can I really put myself through it again? And I know Kyron alluded to having quite a tough year as world champion, having to do all of the media stuff. And I don't think it was a complaint as much, but just a sort of, he's exhausted by it all, and I think it's been that way with snooker a lot because of the amount of travelling that they have to do, and at some points of the year there's a tournament every week for a bit, which makes
even things like was it the Players Championship, which is in Hong Kong now?
Yeah,
and that's
the World Grand Prix. Yeah,
that is a massive journey to do. Less than a month before the World Championship, when before it would have been in somewhere like Milton Keynes.
yeah. Well, absolutely. I think they had the World Grand Prix. They had the World Open around that time as well. So that was another big journey, and then back for the Welsh Open, I think it was, and then you've got the Players Championship in wherever it was. Then you had the Tour Championship in Manchester, and then straight into Sheffield. And if you're qualifying for Sheffield, it's very much back to back to back, and I can see why it is a lot for players. And yeah, John Higgins very emotional, and we seem to see that side of him a lot these days, and it sort of started this time last year, and I don't know if you remember that incredible clearance that he made against Mark Allen in the deciding frame to beat him.
How could anyone forget? How could anyone
Well,
forget
exactly
it?
that double on the red at the start, and just absolutely incredible.
There was a nice moment actually in his interview tonight where I think Steve Davis said like, "Oh, I'm surprised that Joe O'Connor snookered you, and then he took the shot after. I'm surprised he didn't just put you back in to take it." And Higgins just went, "Oh yeah, I would have doubled it in.
Yeah, no, it was funny. But yeah, well played to John Higgins. He came back tonight. He was 5-4 down. He won the first 3 frames to go 7-5. Joe O'Connor pegged him back to 7-all, and a bit like Mark Williams yesterday. Once it got to squeaky bum time, as we call it, he just sort of motored on a little bit, John Higgins. He closed up shop, didn't give Joe O'Connor many chances.
I wouldn't call it a squeaky bum time when it comes to Mark Williams, considering his history.
Yeah, well, absolutely. But yeah, John Higgins comfortably through in the end, 10-7, and he's through to the next round where he'll play Zhao Guodong. So that'll be a good match, and that'll be on the other side of the arena to Mark Selby when at the Crucible later this week on Thursday evening, I believe. So
Nice.
So that's a good one. Some of the other matches to finish today, we had Zhao Xing Tong completing the job against Jack Jones. Now, Jack Jones did threaten a comeback. He won the first 2 frames and was in to win a 3rd frame, but Zhao did come back and ended up winning that 10-4. Again, just scoring really heavily. Jack Jones coming out with a claim of he can't see anybody better than Zhao Xing Tong in the draw this year.
It's a fair shout. He is rightly been a strong favourite since probably even before he qualified. He'd probably be relatively fancy.
Well, yeah, he was 6th favourite before qualifying even started. So
yeah, I do think he's I mean, we'll say it all the time, and he'll get beat by Li Pei Fan. But who knows? He's got a shot. He's surely got a shot.
Yeah, well, absolutely, and I think his side of the draw is opened up massively now that Kyron's out, Neil Robertson's out as well. Mark Allen got through today against Fan. Again, Fan was 3-0 up in that match, perhaps a bit of a missed opportunity for him. But Mark Allen comfortably through 10 frames to 6 in the end. But you look at that quarter, and one of Lei Pai Fan, Zhao Xing Tong, Chris Wakelin, or Mark Allen will be in the semi-final.
Yeah, and I mean, but that's when the pressure starts for all of those players, because all of those players will be looking at it and they'll know who's gone out, and they'll be thinking, just like the pundits will be saying, this is the best chance that some of these players might get for 5-10 years to get to a semi-final. And because these opportunities don't come across that often, and apart from Mark Allen, a lot of these players would probably it would be, actually maybe not for Xing Tong actually, but definitely Felipe Fan and Chris Wakelin, it would be career defining if they get to a semi-final with the Crucible. So they'll both be, probably both feeling it, but also up for it. And then their opponents, as the favourites, will have a different kind of pressure because they'll know you should be winning this on paper. If you know it's not played on paper. So
yeah, I mean, it's hard to see anybody stopping Zhao Xintong until that semi-final, that quarter-final, potentially against a Mark Allen or Chris Wakelin. But, you know, stranger things have happened. I really didn't see Kyron Wilson being stopped. And I think he probably would have been quite hard to stop if he got through that first round. But, you know, anything can happen in these matches, and it usually does, as we've seen at the Crucible. So
another point to consider, actually, is that, you know, the point we made about players like Kyron and Higgins maybe being a bit more sort of tired because they're at the end of a very long season. Obviously, Xintong's played in pretty much every amateur event, but compared to most players, he'll be pretty fresh.
Yeah,
he's not going to be tired from playing in 20 ranked events and all that kind of associated pressure. So
I think a similar argument can be made for Ronnie as well. If Ronnie can get through a couple of matches, you know, he's going to be fresh at the very least.
Ronnie's Xintong final would be gorgeous.
Unfortunately, can't happen. They're on the same half of the draw, but semi-final at least.
What if is there a way to change it?
Unfortunately not, Tom. That's not how snooker works.
We just go to Barry Hearn and go, look, mate, if you really care about the product and the entertainment, let's just call that the final now. Everyone would love it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's. I'm sure a semi-final between Ronnie and Zhao would be just as good. I mean, it's best of 33, isn't it? A semi-final, so you know, we'd get that feeling. It would be absolutely explosive. There'd be so many big breaks, and I'd probably fancy Zhao Xintong over 33 frames just because Ronnie, I think, respects him so much, and I think Ronnie it's the players that Ronnie respects are the ones that are most dangerous to Ronnie, I think. You know, and we've seen that over the year with John Higgins and, you know, Selby, I suppose.
How bizarre is it just to think that if Xintong didn't win his UK Championship, then Luca Bressel would have had 2 of the Triple Crowns. Considering his past 2 seasons. Like. Yeah.
But, you know, Luca Bressel hasn't got underway yet. He may well still feature heavily in this tournament. But yeah, we will see as we move forward. But 2 of the other matches today, Tom, we had Ding Junhui against Zach Surety. Of course, Zach, a debutant, struggled early on. He was 4-0 down by the mid-session interval, but managed to win 3 of the next 5 and gives himself at least a shout going into tomorrow afternoon session. It's going to be heavily overshadowed because they're on the other side of the arena to Ronnie's return, so I'm not sure many people are going to be watching it, but I guess in a way that takes the pressure off Zach, and you know, he can go out there, try and win 3 of the opening 4. That would take him to 7-6 and then match on from there.
Yeah, I'm hoping he manages to do that because I have backed him to do quite well this
semi-final. I think, Tom.
Oh, I don't know what I did. I've probably made a mistake, but I think
you never know.
Well, you never know. I think I backed him to get to quarters. You know, I think that was it, and it's unlikely, but it's just that thing where you never know with debutantes whether they're going to be you know, pressure's off because they're finally there and they're going to enjoy it, or whether they'll be twice as much pressure because you don't want to look like a muppet at the Crucible.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he finished off at least with a century, so you know, hopefully settle down a little bit and come out tomorrow, a little bit less pressure, I guess, and see what happens. You know, he's not expected to win, good luck to him. And the other match this evening was C. Jarwy against David Gilbert, and C actually played really nicely. It's the best I've seen him play for a little while, basically backing up his Crucible credentials. And he's 6-3 up against Dave Gilbert. Now, similar vibes to the Ding match, really. It could turn around tomorrow very, very easily. I think he's tomorrow evening as well. So, that will that match will probably go quite close. I can't imagine Dave Gilbert will give that one up too easily.
Yeah, I think it'll be a bit of a. Again, it's a lot of it's dependent on the first two frames, isn't it? If C wins the first two, you go, oh, he's in trouble. If Gilbert wins the first two, it's game on. So yeah, we'll see. We will see. As they seem to say, approximately 19 times a match. I think this is a really important frame. That every frame,
they're all really important. You never really settle until you've got your first frame on the board. But interestingly, Tom, I mean, tomorrow is an absolute blockbuster day of action. We start off with Zhang Anda and Pang Jung-soo. But on the other side, we got Sean Murphy, the Masters champion, taking on Daniel Wells. He's starting off his Crucible campaign. In the afternoon, as we said before, we've got Ronnie O'Sullivan versus Ali Carter, Ding Junhui and Zach Surety on the other side. But in the evening session, we've got Judd Trump starting his campaign against Zhou Yulong, and C. Jarwy is finishing off against Dave Gilbert. So 3 big contenders starting tomorrow with Sean Murphy, Ronnie, and Judd Trump. Any 3 of those would be very fancied, I think, for a big run at the Crucible this year, if not lifting it at the end of the 17 days.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely they would. And also, I think it's worth picking out Pang against Zhang, because both of them would be...
Their names rhyme, so,
They rhyme, so great double act if they want to team up, Pang and Zhang. We'd go watch them live at the Crucible. But they both will be very up for it, and they'll both be probably going pretty happy with the draw for, relatively similar reasons. But, Anders not a... He's never won the Crucible. I looked this up the other day. He's never actually won, and considering first time he plays at the Crucible, he was against Stephen Hendry.
10-9, I believe.
Yeah, and that's a long time since your debut to not win, and so I will be rooting for him. It'll be good to see him get through, but I think either of them last 16 at the Crucible, and I think once you get, as we say, once you get to that stage, it's game on. It's game on. So I think now that won't be a match that I think is very hyped on many people be choosing to watch necessarily, but I do think it for either player, it's a big opportunity. Yeah,
absolutely. And they'll also have an eye on the fact that they could be playing Ronnie O'Sullivan or Ali Carter in the next round. If that does happen to be Ronnie, would he pull out potentially? Ali Carter's had some neck injury as well, troubling him. So you've got to think, maybe I'll get a bye through the quarterfinal if I win this match, which would be absolutely massive. Obviously, it's unlikely, but it could happen.
I did see someone say they think his neck injury was caused by Rob Walker shaking him like that with long. Oh, well done for getting through. Yeah. Oh, Rob, what have you done? And just Ronnie sniffing him like 20 quid, going, cheers, Rob. All right, thanks, mate. Yeah.
Well, you never know. You never know what will happen. Obviously, the big story tomorrow will be Ronnie O'Sullivan coming out. I think, as we've said, the first 4 frames are crucial to how that match will pan out. I think Ronnie will be bang up for it, and fingers crossed he will at least put on a good show. I don't think anybody will begrudge him getting beat by Ali Carter. if that does happen over the next couple of days. But it'll be really nice to see him back playing. I think that's the main thing tomorrow. Hopefully see him play some good stuff, and whatever happens the other side of it, it is what happens at the end of the day. Ronnie could come out tomorrow and win the session 8-1, and everybody's tipping him for the World Championship. It really could go any way tomorrow, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could. And it's it could be another year where all of the class of 92 get through to the last 16, which the fact that 2 of them already have is bonkers. You just kind of, every year people go, oh yeah, they won't do it next year. And Williams is in his 50s. Higgins is going to be 50 in May. Ronnie's 49, and still they're playing. They're against players who weren't even born when they won their first World Championship, and they're getting through matches, which is incredible.
Yeah, and I think, as I say, at least one of them will probably keep doing it for 3, 4, 5 more years. And I just always go back to, I think it was the 2009 World Championships, and they got 5 so-called experts to predict what the top 16 would be in 5 years, so 2014, and I think only one of them predicted that Ronnie would still be about. John Higgins, Mark Williams, nowhere to be seen. They're, too old. All of this, it'll just be dominated by Chinese players. And it's funny that actually, 16 years later, they're still very much at the top of the game, as are a lot of the players that were around back in the 2009 World Championship. The likes of Sean Murphy, the likes of Robertson, Selby, Mark Allen, Ding Junhui. Absolutely crazy that all of these players are just sticking about for so long, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a real kind of exceptional group of, not just a class of 92, but there's probably at least 20 players who their longevity is kind of broken all records, and it'll be fascinating to see whether the next generation that are coming through, the C's, the Pangs, the Stan Moody's, whether those people can match them, or whether it'll go back to players having 15-year careers then dropping off tour. Like that's the mad thing. You look at some former players, and some of them only had like 20-year professional careers from start to finish, and whereas now players are in the top 16 for 30 years.
But yeah, the only player I can really say is a fair comparison is probably Steve Davis, because he was still in the top 16 when he was 50. He's the only one that's ever done it to that sort of level. Now, of course, he didn't win anything. He did get to the UK final at the age of 47. That's probably the only thing that is comparable to what the class of 92 are doing, and not just the class of 92. The likes of Bingham, Mark Davis had a few years in the top 16 a few years ago. There's lots of players that are winning older now. But as you say,
I'd throw Hawkins and Carter into the mix as well.
Yeah.
In fact, they're still at the Crucible at an age where 20 years ago would have been extraordinary, but they're just there, and you just kind of go, of course they're there, because it's so normal now that players can, for whatever reason.
Well, it's funny. It's like the 80s, isn't it? Because in the 80s you had Fred Davis getting there in his 70s, and you had the likes of Eddie Charlton, quite old, Thorburn and Griffiths. Into the 90s, they were in their 40s and still getting the Crucible quarterfinals. And I guess this has always been a thing, that the only outlier in it all is the likes of Stephen Hendry, who retired quite young.
I wonder whether that was more down to his mentality, though. Do you know what I mean? Because if you think that Mark Williams dropped out the top 16, refound his game, won a world title, is now back in the top 10. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Hendry gave up as soon as his top 16 place was at risk. And I'm sure he probably has regrets and thinks, and looks at Mark Williams as a direct example, and also Hawkins and Stuart Bingham, those kind of players, and goes, "Oh, maybe I quit too early," because
I think so. Yeah, because he could have probably, in circa 2013-14, could have found some form. But we'll never know at the end of the day. I mean, Mark Williams dropped out of the top 32 in 2008. He dropped off very early, did Mark Williams. Came back, got back to world number 1, dropped out the top 16 again, then ended up becoming world champion in 2018. And the ups and downs of a lot of these players is crazy, isn't it? But we will see how it goes tomorrow. Can Ronnie make it a perfect 3 out of the class of 92? But shall we move on to our regular segment, Tom?
Yes, we shall. And today, because we're doing one segment of the 2 each day, and so today, we're alternating it at the moment. It might change depending on what we get sent in, depending on how we're feeling on the day, or if we have anything that relates to a certain player. Like, I'm already thinking when Selby's playing that we should probably go back to the Mark Selby snooker song, just because it's an absolute banger.
Yeah. So let's cue the laughter today, Tom.
And this is your submission today, Joe. It's a video I think I've already probably watched. I think a lot of people might already be aware of a bit, but we've never covered it on the podcast.
Well, it actually comes from one of our fan Jeng emails, Tom. It comes from Archie Smith, who has got back in touch. He says, hope you are well. Thank you ever so much for using my Cue the Music, as it meant the world to me. So, of course, the Hurricane it
was great. It was a great choice as well.
Yeah, it was a good one. Now what I've found this time is another couple of clips related to snooker commentary, which are absolutely hilarious, and I think you're going to really enjoy watching it. You can find them here. So one of them is going to be today. I have got another one that he has sent, and we'll probably do that in a few days' time. You're doing brilliantly at the moment, and I'm sure you will grow more and more as the year goes on, so a huge well done. Enjoy your visit to the Crucible later this week, and what a brilliant World Championship we have had so far. Thank you, Archie Smith. Thank you very much for getting in touch. We do really appreciate it, and thanks for sending over the today's Cue the Laughter. So... would you like to tell us a little bit about this, Tom? Because you've seen it before.
It's Murray Walker commentating on snooker, and Murray Walker. I mean, me and Joe are both fans of F1, and Joe is probably a bigger fan of F1 than me, actually. And so everyone knows Murray Walker is synonymous with his very excitable, fast commentary on F1 that very much would match the pace and excitement of the sport. And snooker isn't known for its pace or its necessarily exhilarating excitement in the same way, but it's a video of him commentating on the F1. I don't know whether it's from a Top Gear or something, because I think Jeremy Clarkson's there at the start. I can't quite remember.
I don't know. I don't know where this originates, so if anybody does know, because it's quite a famous clip, isn't it? But we will see. Let's give it a go, Tom. So this is Murray Walker commentating on snooker.
But the thing I have always wanted to commentate on more than anything else, you're going to laugh at this, is snooker.
I'm not going to laugh, because I've got a microphone here, okay? Can you take that, a proper microphone? Yeah. And we've got a clip here of some snooker. And I'd like you to give it the Murray Walker treatment,
Can I stand up? Because I always stand up.
No, do, by all means stand. By all means. Can we run this clip then, and let's have Murray's interpretation of it?
And here we are, that's Ronnie O'Sullivan, and this man is absolutely sensational. He's using the special high-grip chalk on his cue, and that cue itself is a very high-tech piece of equipment. Now, watch him. Which ball is he going to hit? He's going to hit the white ball, and he's going to hit straight on the yellow ball, and back goes the cue, and slam! He's missed it! He's missed it! Fantastic!
That was great.
Ah, it's brilliant. The late great Murray Walker there, and fantastic to hear his voice again. But yeah, weirdly, that's kind of how John Virgo commentates when the match gets to a crescendo. What's he going for here? He's missed the yellow.
Yep. Where's the cue ball going? He's very it's not too dissimilar from Virgo. I guess it's that kind of. It's maybe, I don't know what year this took place, but it's from possibly an era where people like Ted Lowe were more and Clive Everton were the sort of standard commentators, and so the idea of someone like Murray Walker getting that excited would have been more strange to people than it would be nowadays with JV and his style of commentary. But I think what's lovely
Phil
about
Yates, of course.
God, I'd rather Murray Walker than Phil Yates every day of the week.
Well,
even that made me sad. That one word, I felt like Phil was in the room.
I tell you what, Tom. Speaking of commentators, we've been uploading the commentators' classic shots over the last few days from the 2011 World Championship, and I've had an absolute blast watching those. They're only about 5 minutes. I'd highly recommend them. Do just watch them. They are so funny. Just seeing all of them together. I just wish they would do things like that, rather than just doing pot quiz every year, which is what they seem to do now. Just some real good laughs, and Michaela Tab used to always, sort of present these things. It would be quite funny to see Tatiana Wollaston doing this now, or Marcel Urquhart,
or Desi.
Yeah. Who's of course doing the world final this year? Desi,
the first woman ever to referee all of the Triple Crown finals, apparently.
Wow, I was stunned. I
was stunned Michaela Tab hadn't, but
yeah, because she did two. She did two world finals, didn't she? So, but to be fair, Desi hasn't done a world seniors final or a 900 final. It's.
Does a referee have to be a certain age to referee the World Seniors final?
To be honest with you, I think I've seen younger people doing the seniors than I've seen doing the actual snooker. So, I don't think it applies to the referees, Tom.
Oh, okay.
But of course, Michaela. I mean, that. Just we're going completely on a tangent here, but. The Stephen Hendry This Is Snooker game. Obviously, that was going to have Michaela as the voice for the referee in that game.
I think she voiced the referee in the PS3 game International Snooker. I believe that was her as well.
Did she?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it was her. And it was one of those things where you went, okay, you've not got any real players, but you've got the referee going.
Michaela Tab. You know what, Tom? I never knew that. Never knew that. Wow.
I hope I'm not misremembering now, in case Joe gets his PS3 out and boots it up and goes, nope, it's just that.
Tom, right here. Let's get the PS3.
There we go.
So you can rely on me. I just produce PlayStation remotes from any angle. So
and Joe can do that anytime, anywhere. Do you know what I mean? If you see Joe at the Crucible, just go, oh, Joe, have you got a boom? He'll have it in his hand straight away. For no reason, he'll have it there.
Have you got one of Stuart Bingham's balls there?
What Joe likes to do when he goes to the Crucible, he takes his PlayStation controller and he pretends he's controlling the players.
Yeah, and I go, I missed the power bar there. Oh, dear.
Oh, I pressed the wrong button. I didn't want to go for that ball.
Yeah, just put a bit too much screw on that one.
When they go out for a toilet break, Joe's like, I've got to get my charger. I'm running out of power, so I just need to...
Yeah, but no, looking forward to that then later in the week. And as I say, if you see me out and about at the Crucible and I don't look busy, like I'm signing autographs or whatever. No, I'm joking.
You're getting big for your... If I don't look... Who is this man? If I don't look busy...
Well, if I'm sat at a restaurant table or something, I'd rather not be disturbed. But
You've changed, Joe. You've changed.
But if I'm just walking around Sheffield, come and have a chat. It would be great to catch up with people. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Lovely stuff. I think that's probably all we've got to say for today, Joe. Any final words about day 3 or day 4?
No, well, day 3 is maybe not had as much action as the previous 2 days, but still intriguing nonetheless. Would have been nice to have a 147, being my idea of heaven there, but.
No, I hope they're saving it for when you're there. So
fingers crossed. I hope I can get 25 grand and then I can buy that Stephen Hendry action figure. Finally, Tom.
Oh God, yeah. Your lovely fiance will be like, "Oh, Joe, we can go on a lovely honeymoon," and you'll be like, "I may have ordered everything from Cue the Laughter for the past 3 years. There'll be the Stephen Hendry action figure." There'll be Chris Henry's balls.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can buy Chris Henry's balls in the merchandise store this Thursday, and that's maybe me plan, Tom. Maybe the plan.
Dreams do come true.
They do indeed. But no, looking forward to tomorrow. I think tomorrow will be, or later today as people are watching this, I think it will be the best day of action yet. Yeah. Just great to see the likes of Murphy, Trump, and O'Sullivan enter the tournament. Always a bit of a buzz when any of those three turn up and play, and hopefully all three of them can play well and entertain the crowds on day 4.
Lovely, yeah. And always remember, you can leave us comments below or email the podcast if you have any thoughts, any comments, any requests, any ideas, or whether you just want to say we're doing a good job. We also appreciate that.
Or that we're doing a terrible job. Or that Joe's getting too big for his boots.
I'll definitely email that. Please, can you email saying Joe's getting way too big for his boots.
But there you have it. We will catch you tomorrow, everybody. And hopefully we'll be talking about a Ronnie O'Sullivan excellent performance. And that he's on the verge of going through against Ali Carter. That's the dream, isn't it?
That is. If not, Joe will be very grumpy.
I'll be very grumpy. There won't be a podcast tomorrow. And I won't speak to anybody on Thursday.
Do you know who I am? You'll be saying to them.
Do you know who I am? Yeah. With my 10 million lifetime views on YouTube.
Oh God, he's gone to his head. It's gone to his head. This is.
But no, in all seriousness, really, really thankful for the support on the podcast so far. We have had a few comments, by the way, Tom, just to catch up on those. Sam Jones wants us to go back over Dennis Taylor's gargles over the next couple of weeks in our retro Cue the Music. We've got
Yes,
791 Mike saying Williams' match was the best of round one so far. Williams was mustard in closing it out. The Chinese players are impressive in the balls, but I think they all fall before the semis. Don't think they'll hold up to the pressure of the tactical frames over the long sessions. Lots of innuendo in that. Thank you very much, Mike. Mr. Dog said, I tend to agree with you there as a general statement, if not the prediction of none of them making the semis, although I wouldn't be surprised if you ended up being right. I think a lot of the talented younger lads could really do with that Reardon style seasoning that Ronnie got to round them out as players. Mike responded and he said, absolutely, it's essential at the Crucible. Seen so many players crumble in that place when the heat turns up. Not many players have the stamina for the full tournament. If Ronnie, Selby or Higgins get in their groove, they'll old man Zing Tong over the longer sessions. There you go. Mr. Dog also reckons we could get Steve Davis to do Snooker Loopy.
How? How, Mr. Dog? How? How?
Yeah. But no, thank you very much for all of your support so far. Keep it coming. Get in touch down below and all of that good stuff. And we will see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.